Joe Milton is the best dynasty stash that you can have on your roster right now. We'll explain why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today is Chris Nalls from Player Profile. Profiler, you can follow him on Twitter at Chris Nalls NFL. On today's show, we're going to do a little bit of a fun show for you guys. We're talking deep dynasty leagues, like none of these 12, 15-man rosters that a couple of the ones I play at, really short benches. We're talking like 30, 35-man rosters, players that you want to stash at the bottom of your roster because they could help you win your dynasty championship. And Chris, when we were texting back and forth about this, you gave me an awesome name to kick off the show with. Who do you got?
None other than Joe Milton. Big, strong, rocket arm, mobile. Love him. He's one of my favorite guys right now.
So explain to me the ceiling here, because I'll get to this from a Cowboy perspective in a little bit, just because I covered this team for Locked On Cowboys. Check it out. What about his fantasy dynasty profile do you love so much?
I love his mobility. I think, the last game, back up, the only game he played in last year against the Buffalo Bills, I know a lot of people were kind of knocking him because it was, against backups per se, right? But he really showed his arm, his mobility, his consistency, good footwork. I really, really like what I saw from Joe Milton. And when you've got teams out there like the Pittsburgh Steelers who need a quarterback, I would have called and made that trade. And it just so happened somebody did, and it was the Dallas Cowboys, which I also like because Dak Prescott's 31 years old.
So let me make the case from a Cowboys perspective why I think this could be really interesting. So you mentioned the age for Dak. That part of it doesn't concern me as much because we've seen plenty of quarterbacks playing 34, 35. He just signed a new deal. Like, he's going to be on this team. Like, the Cowboys cannot move on from Dak for like the next 3 years. However, that doesn't mean that Joe Milton can't get on the field. We had 2020, he had the ankle injury that cost the season. 2021, he had a calf injury. 2022, he had a thumb and shoulder injury. And then 2024, obviously, he has the hamstring injury that cost him the entire season. So, like, you look at that 5-year stretch, and he's been pretty beat up. Yeah. And I think as he's going to continue to age, he's just going to get less and less mobile. And that has me concerned a little bit. I do think if and when Joe Milton's on the field, we're going to be ranking him as like a top 10 fantasy quarterback every week, Chris. And I think that's the appeal. If this guy gets the chance to start, we're going to be playing him every week going forward.
I 100% agree, Marcus. I think he's every bit of what Anthony Richardson should have been in the NFL. That's my take.
All right, so that's not your only quarterback that you're buying in your dynasty leagues. By the way, Joe Milton right now, he's going at like quarterback 40, 42, so you can get him for nothing. So if you're in a Superflex league, he's probably rostered because he's got that kind of talent, but you can get him for nothing. Who's the other quarterback that you are trying to stash right now on your dynasty teams?
I really like, and I know I might get a lot of hate on this, but I really love Malik Willis. I think what he did last year in those 2 or 3 games he started when Jordan Love was out was phenomenal. I was always a big fan of his game coming out of college. I just think when he was drafted to the Tennessee Titans, they were much more of a defensive scheme, run-first scheme, if I should say so. Mm-hmm. But I think the best thing that happened to him was going to a team like the Green Bay Packers, which has a better offensive scheme for him, better suited for him. And he balled out. I mean, he literally balled out in those 3 games and was phenomenal, in my opinion. So
the hope here is that I mean, Malik Willis still under contract with Green Bay. He has no path to starting in Green Bay outside of injury. So the hope is that he is a free agent in 2026, I believe, right? Drafted in 2022. And that he goes somewhere else and is either given a starting job, which I have a hard time seeing, or he just has a chance to compete for a job. And that's not all that hard to envision because you do have like guys like Justin Fields who continues to get shots after shots. And now he's on his third team in 3 years starting for the Jets. So I do think it's feasible to assume that Malik Willis could be a starter down the road.
He definitely could. I think the biggest reason why you see Justin Fields getting so many opportunities was the draft capital compared to Malik Willis's. Also, his stint in Tennessee wasn't that great, but I think those were circumstances because of Tennessee, not because of Malik Willis.
And the thing for Malik Willis that you're hoping for is maybe he goes to a team that just needs a gap quarterback like Justin Fields or like what Cleveland's doing with Kenny Pickett right now. Kenny Pickett could be a week one starter after basically doing nothing for Pittsburgh, started a couple games for Philadelphia. It sounds bad, but I think Malik Willis has already shown as much as what Kenny Pickett has. I wouldn't be shocked to see him get another chance somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. I think if, like you mentioned, Kenny Pickett, I think he's shown more, in my opinion.
Yeah. Any other quarterbacks out there that you think are interesting at all to stash? Jalen Milroe, quarterback 29 right now. Shedeur Sanders, quarterback 31. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback 33.
I'm in a love-hate relationship with Shedeur Sanders. I think he has a lot of opportunity. I think man, it's tough to talk about Shedeur because on one side, I look at his tape and it shows a lot of flaws, but then I look at what he did at Colorado too, and he shines. So I like Shedeur. I don't like the landing spot. Cleveland that's like a quarterback graveyard. Yeah. But if there isn't any team that he could possibly win that starting job, it would be Cleveland. I wouldn't be concerned about Flacco, not even Dylan Gabriel, in my opinion.
Can I give you one? Like, this is the most non-sexy name ever. Mac Jones, who's now the backup for the 49ers. He's behind Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy just signed a contract there. But the rumor has always been that Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones and that's who he was going to take at number 3. And then eventually John Lynch overruled him. If Mac Jones were to ever start because of an injury or whatever, I wouldn't be surprised if he put up pretty big numbers in that San Francisco offense. We've seen him. I know it feels like forever ago, but Mac Jones did make the Pro Bowl his first year. He was actually a pretty decent starter, led the Patriots to the playoffs. I'm not saying he would put up massive fantasy numbers, but I do think Mac Jones he's a top 3 backup quarterback in a top 5 situation. I'm just monitoring him. It's at least a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think Mac Jones plays a little similar to Brock Purdy. And like you just said, with Kyle Shanahan and 49ers, I think he could duplicate some of that magic there. And, we had just talked about the Steelers. I don't know why the Steelers don't maybe pick up the phone and look at Mac Jones either. But
they got Mason Rudolph, who they feel like is the Mac Jones that they've already had once. I don't know. All right, let's talk about some wide receivers that we want to stash on our Dynasty rosters. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I absolutely love FanDuel, and with the NBA playoffs in full swing, every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there has never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. I love betting on the NBA futures market. It's one of my favorite things. Go check out all those lines and odds available right now. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are discussing some deep Dynasty stashes that you need to be making right now in your Dynasty leagues. And Chris, let's talk about some wide receivers. I want to start with a guy that I've actually mentioned several times in this podcast, but I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it because I think he's such a screaming value right now. And that's Dante Thornton. I want you to go first, and then I'll chime in. Is Dante Thornton somebody that you're trying to grab? Wide receiver 99 right now in Dynasty League football.
Not trying to grab. I already have grabbed.
Let's go.
I think Dante Thornton has probably one of the easiest paths to become relevant here very, very fast. That wide receiver room in LA is, I'm sorry, not LA, Las Vegas, is very weak. I don't think Jacoby Myers is like a legit wide receiver one. I know he is by default, but I think he is going to be a stud in Vegas.
I'm all in on Dante Thornton. But first of all, you look at the wide receiver core, and you mentioned this, like Jack Besh, second round pick. I think he's going to be the slot receiver, right? Like he's going to be the guy in the middle. Jacoby Myers is a really underrated Z receiver. But I think he's in the last year of his deal. He's not necessarily a long-term guy anyways for Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. I look at Dante Thornton as a guy that could potentially win the X receiver job at this offense. And you look at the other names in this roster, and I just don't think Trey Tucker is somebody that they love all that much. And you look at Dante Thornton, they run the same 40, but Dante Thornton is only 6 inches taller.
6'5",
6'5", 210 pounds. He's got that SEC production. I wouldn't be surprised if Pete Carroll in that draft room in the front office was telling everybody, "Hey, I turned a 6'4", 225 pound receiver that fell to the bottom of the second round in DK Metcalf into a pretty good player. I can do that with Dante Thornton. Just give it to me and let me figure it out." He's never going to be the most refined route runner. He's not going to be a guy that you run 9-10 different routes with. It's going to be go balls. It's going to be post and maybe a slant every once in a while. But I do think with Geno Smith and with all the other underneath weapons in this offense, he is a guy that I could see being like a Marquez Valdes-Scantling type of player, which I know that doesn't sound like it's a very high ceiling. But there was some times where Marcus Valdes-Scantling was a rosterable, usable player in our fantasy leagues.
He was last year for the Saints when all of a sudden he was signed and then became Derek Carr's favorite target for a few weeks, and he produced great numbers.
Yep. So there you go. I agree. And the thing I like about Thornton, Chris, is that if it doesn't work out, let's say he's like a healthy scratch or he didn't make the roster, you move on, no big deal, not going to care. But if he hits, his ceiling is just so much higher than a lot of the other names mentioned. Like, let me give you an example. Xavier Restrepo is wide receiver 100 right now in Dynasty League football. If Restrepo hits, what are you looking at? Like a 60 catch guy for 900 yards, 5 touchdowns. Keenan Allen, wide receiver 102. I mean, Keenan Allen is just dust at this point.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks, wide receiver 101. Like, Brandon Cooks could barely get snaps as a wide receiver 2 in Dallas with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Trey Tucker, wide receiver 97.
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 96. He's been on how many teams in the last 12 months? I would just rather gamble on Thornton's upside at 6'4", 205, 22 years old, and average over 20 yards a catch in the SEC.
Agree. Totally agree with you.
Yeah. Let's get to some of my other favorite deep dynasty stashes. And this, I'm probably going to be wrong on this one. It's okay. I love this player pre-draft, so I want to mention it. Malachi Corley was a day 2 pick last year for the Jets, and he did not have a strong rookie season. There was that one game, I think it was against Houston, that he fumbled out of the back of the end zone?
I think it was.
Yeah. But what do we know about Malachi Corley coming out of Western Kentucky? He is a project receiver who's still learning how to become a full-time route runner. We didn't expect him to do much as a rookie anyways. And then once they traded for Devontae Adams, there was just no chance that he was going to come in and be a big-time player, right? We also know that Aaron Rodgers hates young receivers, right?
Yeah.
Now you look at this Jets offense, and outside of Garrett Wilson, Chris, do you feel good about any of these other receivers? I mean, Allen Lazard probably going to be in Pittsburgh playing with Aaron Rodgers, and you look at the rest of that depth chart, there's just nothing there.
No, I agree. I think the Jets have done a phenomenal job of kind of bouncing back to where they were drafting fairly well, were getting young, and then all of a sudden injected it with a lot of older pieces. And to your point, I think, yes, outside of Garrett Wilson, I think, Corley could definitely be the wide receiver too there. Justin Fields, he's going to need someone else besides Garrett Wilson, for sure. I definitely like him as a wide receiver too, kind of a sneaky wide receiver too this year.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be – he's not going to play a full-time role. He's going to come in and get some touches. But let me just read you the other names on the roster for the Jets receivers. It's – and I promise I'm not making these names up. Pokey Wilson, Brandon Smith, Arian Smith, who they drafted, I believe, in the 3rd or 4th round this year. Super fast receiver, can't catch the ball at all. Quentin Skinner, Josh Reynolds, who's got almost nothing left. Jamal Pritchard, Damir Miller, Allen Lazard, who I think is going to be gone. Tyler Johnson, haven't heard that name in a while. Xavier Gibson, and Irvin Charles. It's not like Malachi Corley is going to need to do a lot in training camp to pass up those names.
I agree. Man, Josh Reynolds, man.
I know. Wow. I know, and I just think they're going to look at this offense. They've got Garrett Wilson. They've got Breece Hall. We'll see what Mason Taylor does. Their rookie tight end they drafted in the 2nd round, but they're going to need more guys that can create with the ball in their hands. I think Malachi Corley with Justin Fields on a lot of these like rollout, layup, jet sweeps, toss passes, just to kind of get the ball out of his hands, I think makes a lot of sense. And again, Malachi Corley is somebody who needed time to develop. He's only 23, turned 23 in March. I don't mind taking a shot on him at the back end of my roster.
No, I agree. And I really like to touch back on the Jets, what they've done is with Aaron Glenn. I think that team is going to be – I think that's going to shock a lot of people this year. I really do.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some running back stashes that could maybe help you win your fantasy leagues this year. We'll talk about Brashard Smith and Braylon Allen, another Jet, next. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. As training camps get closer and moves are being made, host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Chris, let's talk about some running backs here. I want to start with Braylon Allen. We've already talked about the Jets. Let's do Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen right now is RB 49 on Dynasty League Football. If you listen to our show on Wednesday, Matt Williamson and I talked about how we are kind of out on Breece Hall at his current ADP in the final year of his contract. The Jets want to use more of a running back by committee approach. I wonder if Braylon Allen might not be the better fit with Justin Fields and more of a downhill power running game to kind of, in the bad weather in New Jersey. I'm not saying he's going to play over Breece Hall, but I wouldn't be shocked if Braylon Allen's the clear-cut starter in New York in 2026.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And that was an interesting point you just brought up with Justin Fields there. They do need a downhill runner, and Justin Fields is he's so quick. I mean, he's such a quick, jittery running back quarterback. But I think Braylon Allen is huge. He's strong. Big, massive downhill runner. I could see that happening, actually. And Breece Hall, he tailed off a lot last year. Kind of had a down year. And I'm on board with that. I could definitely see that happen.
Braylon Allen just turned 21 in January, already into the second year of his career. Saw some of the training videos, and again, I don't want to overreact to training videos, but he looks unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a
Another
beast.
thing, the success rate was really good last year, 51% success rate. I got to believe that the addition of Justin Fields is just going to make everybody a better runner. They did draft Armand Membu at pick number 7 to be their starting right tackle. I like the offensive line. I think I just like the fact that he's so young. He's got 3 years left on his contract. This is going to be a run first offense that I think everybody anticipates being really efficient because of Justin Fields. Like what we know from NFL history, you add an athletic running quarterback, your entire run game gets better. I
That's
think
right.
Braylon Allen at RB 50 prices, sign me up. I have no problem at all paying that price and more to get him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's definitely somebody that can definitely give you an ROI and be massive. I mean, this guy, I liked him last year. I had a few guys, league mates in my Dynasty league that kind of drafted him last season and kind of was upset about it. But I'm glad I didn't in that sense because the Jets kind of turned out to be not too great. But no, this season, I agree.
Last one here before we head out. Brashard Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs. I would say usually 7th round picks at running back, I just roll my eyes because the odds of them making the team are so low, let alone the odds of them coming in and having a role. But number one, this was a really deep running back class. And I think 7th round picks in this class are the equivalent to 4th, 5th round picks in other years, right? And number two, the Chiefs have shown that they're just going to play the best running back, whether that's Isaiah Pacheco, who was a 7th round pick. They picked up Kareem Hunt, who looked like toast last year. He comes in and plays a big time role. Jerick McKinnon has been a player this passing offense that's provided a lot of value. And Chris, that's actually who he reminds me of. He reminds me of a souped up version of Jerick McKinnon. This is somebody who was extremely productive as a receiver in college before making the transition to running back. Was great as a running back in 2024 for SMU, averaged 5.7 yards per carry, 14 rushing touchdowns. And again, you look at the depth chart, Isaiah Pacheco, Elijah Mitchell, Carson Strong, Kareem Hunt. There's a chance that Smith just shows up to training camp and is just the most explosive running back, and Andy Reid has no choice but to play him.
Yeah, no. One thing too I want to add on to is Isaiah Pacheco. He's not durable. He's had 7 injuries so far, and you're right. Beating out Elijah Mitchell's not going to be that hard.
Just walk to the practice field, you'll be fine.
That's right. And then you have Kareem Hunt, who is getting up there in age now, and you said it yourself. He was not that old Kareem Hunt that we're used to. So the pathway is definitely there. I definitely can see that. And with that high-powered offense in Kansas City, man.
Well, so this just and this feels like the player that the Chiefs were thinking they were going to get when they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round. Like somebody that can be a real weapon as a receiver that probably not going to be, a double-digit carry guy. Unless you might be able to get him there, but somebody that can give you a couple home runs on the ground, but mostly going to be used as a receiver. And I bring up Jerick McKinnon because there was a lot of times that McKinnon ended up being the most valuable running back in the backfield, and he bounced around the league. And Jerick McKinnon was a former college quarterback, I think at Georgia Southern, made the transition to running back. It's not all that dissimilar from Brashard Smith making that move to running back his final year in college. I just like the talent a lot. And again, like Dante Thornton, Chris, if he doesn't make the roster, you move on and who cares? It's not that big of a deal. RB 66 in dynasty leagues right now. Like that's nothing.
No, that 100% correct. It's all about that ROI. And if it doesn't hit, it costs you nothing. So, I mean, it's a deep stash, on way down on your bench there. You spend that currency. And if it doesn't hit, it's okay. You move on. You go on to next year or waiver wire.
Yeah, let me give you some examples. Like Austin Eckler is being ranked as RB 63 or being drafted as RB 63. Why in the world would you ever want to roster Austin Eckler over Brashard Smith at this point?
Yeah, no. Maybe about 8 years ago I would, but not now. No, not now.
I even look at some of these other running backs. Like I'll give you an example. I like Blake Corum a lot. I think Blake Corum is a fun prospect coming out of Michigan, but it sure sounds like the Rams are going to extend Kyron Williams, and they drafted Jarquez Hunter this year. No chance I want Blake Corum at that price, or Jerome Ford, another running back. The Browns drafted 2 running backs this year: Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, and yet Jerome Ford RB55. Like I just don't get that at all.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I'm someone that actually has a Jerome Ford share in Dynasty, so I don't know how I'm going to move him, but yes,
you're going to cut him is what you're going to do, probably.
I want to at least try to get maybe a 6th, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see. You never know. There's always something you can. But you're not going to trade him 1-for-1. You're probably going to have to add him into a trade. Maybe he'll be a little sweetener. But not for me. Not for you either. That's it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. We want to thank Chris for joining the show. Second appearance here on Locked On Dynasty Football. Go follow his good work over at Player Profiler. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris Nalls NFL. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Make sure you download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms, and we will see you right back here on Friday.